infinite cannot have a form, of course. So it's a being, and he breathes. He was inhaling is a long process, maybe running into millions or billions of years, there are calculations for that, I am not the mathematician for that. And when he exhaled, it's not that he has nostrils, he exhales from everywhere. If you did not have actually even our skin is it's not only perspiring, it's also respiring, So we are breathing through our every pore in the skin. Like that, when he breathed, that created a certain amount of energy. That we call as Shakti. Shakti came out of him. When energy came out of him, then this firmament of nothingness, which is a powerful force, it started reverberating initially, then caused ripples. Those ripples led to cyclical movements. So with these cyclical movements, the first physical forms came out, and it all over burst forth. As these cycles became more and more complicated, from whatever we call as electrons, protons, atoms, planetary systems, universes, all these evolved because of the cyclical movements. Fundamentally, we see physicality as a consequence of cyclical movement. Our very birth is because of the cyclical movements in our mother's bodies, otherwise we wouldn't be born. There is a yogic doomsday you would like to know, sir. So studying these cycles, feeling these cycles in our own bodies and studying these cycles, things were figured out because we were more interested in how to transform life here and how to make a human being go beyond these cycles. As I said earlier, the cycles of time are such, they can crush you. Why? In their childhood they were like this, and now they become like this, a lot of people. Time has crushed them. People think it's their experiences of life, this and that. No, that is only an excuse, it's actually time which has crushed them. Or the same time could trap people. They're okay, but they're bored and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Do you mean crush them in the sense that they die?
That will anyway happen, but when they're alive they feel crushed by time. The cycles of time just crushes them day in and day out. Many people wish the sun doesn't come up tomorrow morning, but it comes up and they have to go to work. It crushes them. In United States they have thank God it's Friday.
Yes.
It means they don't have to wake up tomorrow morning.
Yes. TGIF we used to.
Yes.
At Caltech we used to have the TGIF celebration every Friday.
So we want to break these cycles. So any cycle naturally has a centripetal force and a centrifugal force. If you get caught up in the centripetal, you get crushed. If you ride the centrifugal, then you're released, a tangent is formed. So to attain to this tangent is the goal of life in the East. We call this mukti, nirvana, moksha, whatever. Essentially we want to ride the physical cycles in such a way we are liberated from the physical cycles. How did people see these things? How did people come up with these things? This is always a question. Well, how did the modern scientists see something? Today everybody is talking about Hubble and whatever the other one, John Space?
James Webb Telescope.
James Webb Space, whatever. What are these instruments? These instruments are just extensions of our own senses, only because we have eyes. Only because we have eyes, the telescope means something. Otherwise, what is a telescope for a man who has no eyes? Simply nothing, all right? It's just a pipe. With a few mirrors and maybe lenses or whatever it is, it's just a pipe. It's a metal pipe, we can use it for something, but you can't use it because inside they've blocked it with so many things.
Quite expensive.
Expensive pipe. I agree with that. So I'm saying only because we have eyes, we are making instruments which will extend our eyes.
Indeed.
So this extension was done in so many different ways. One of the things that we did was that we created energetic forms which would make us look very, very far. Today, unfortunately, it is all being misunderstood and misrepresented, but there were instruments with which we could look very far, we could open windows into the cosmos. These we called as our deities. These are not gods, there is no concept of God in the East.
Are you talking about modern telescopes or ancient metaphor?
There were no ancient telescopes.
No, I meant metaphorical.
Yes, they saw things by creating energetic forms. You have definitely heard of, because he was in your neighborhood, Ramanujam.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So when people asked him, some 3,900 mathematical formulations he came out with, which is still being debated and discussed, and people are trying to understand what he wrote. When people asked him, he was dying of tuberculosis. He sat on his deathbed and simply poured out mathematics. When people asked him, how does this come? He said, my Devi, which means my goddess, bleeds mathematics.
Ramanujam was at my college, Trinity.
Yes.
But before my time, so I never met him. And to me that is a fascinating example of how one can get information about the universe, not just through the intellect, but through inspiration. As you say, he thought he had his information.
If I should correct that, sir, I'm sorry I'm intervening like this. You never get information through your intellect. You get information through your senses, and there in the intellect you mess it up.
Well,
I mean to say you match it with the old information and try to make sense out of it.
I wouldn't like to admit that we always mess it up, but I think
No, I'm saying we're trying to make sense out of it. But normally what we think is sensible right now is actually blocking us, because what we think is smart, we can't leave. What we think is stupid, we can leave easily.
So you've made so many interesting points, Sadhguru, that well, I'm not sure I can remember them all, but can I react to some of them?
I will remind you.
First of all, I'm glad you mentioned Ramanujan and mathematics, because one of the fascinating things about physics is that ultimately the language of physics is mathematics. You can see a few equations behind. And that is showing that our understanding, because mathematics is a creation of the mind. And there's a curious circularity, because mathematics underlies physics, physics underlies our understanding of the universe produces life and brains, and then the brains produce the minds which produce the mathematics. So you've got this curious cycle, the fact that the universe is comprehensible. I mean, you were sort of decrying, in a certain sense, intellect, but intellect is part of the process involved in mathematics, an incomplete process, but it's because it's just the left-hand side of the brain trying to sort of understand things. And to me, that's always fascinating, why mathematics is actually able to describe the universe. It's a miracle. We talked about miracles quite a lot, but it seems such a miracle that human beings, with their limited brains, are able to understand so much of the universe. I mean, we've only been around, well, 10,000 years or whatever it is, and yet we already claim we can almost understand the universe. Physicists claim they can almost understand the universe completely. Now, I suspect that claim will turn out to be wrong, but at least it is a miracle that we can understand so much. So that's why I sort of reacted to the argument that intellect messes things up. I agree it's often wrong, and in fact I suspect most things turn out to be wrong in the end in physics, but one shouldn't worry too much about what's right or wrong. I think what's interesting is the path. I think most theories of physics end up being wrong, but that doesn't mean it isn't useful, because it's the path which is important rather than the final paradigm, which is always going to change. But I remember there's a statement that mathematics is the language of God. I don't know if this is a statement in the Indian philosophy, but mathematics is the language of God. it is sometimes said. On the other hand, I know that Rumi said that the language of God is silence, and that maybe is more consistent with what you're saying. But so that's the first point I wanted to make, the importance of mathematics, although ultimately it can't reveal everything. I still think it's important, and that's why I loved your reference to Ramanujan, who was a spokesman for mathematics, which came, I think, from his Davis, from his angels, rather than just through his intellect. Now, I love the moment when you took your infinity and it turned into zero. Because, as people will know, I spoke about the cosmic Ouroboros in my talk on Thursday. And I love the cosmic Ouroboros because it encapsulates all the triumph of physics in coming to understand the physical universe. But of course, the most interesting aspect of the Ouroboros is where the head meets the tail. And I said, well, the head corresponds to the universe, and we know how big the universe is, 10 to the 27 centimeters, and the tail corresponds to the Planck scale, 10 to the minus 33 centimeters. Well, those are only the...
So, for me, they go to temples, mosques, churches, wherever. What is their prayer? What is the prayer on the planet? Dear God, give me this, give me that, save me, protect me, make me healthy. Give me a little more than my neighbor. Yes, what else? This is all the prayer on the planet is. So otherwise, no, not like that, I go there to thank. Thank what? For what you got last time, so that he doesn't forget you next Christmas. This happened. Let me tell you a little joke, so it's getting serious. Two boys, brothers, went to grandmother's place for Christmas. So they're required to pray before they go to bed. The elder boy sat down, kneeled down rather, and started praying. He wanted a puppy for the Christmas. So he's praying, dear Lord, let me have a puppy and what breed and everything. The younger boy, who is wiser, screamed loudly, dear Lord, I need a bicycle, dear Lord, I need a bicycle. So this older boy says, what nonsense, why are you screaming, God can hear. He said, I don't care whether God hears or not, I want grandma to hear.
Can I ask you another question, which doesn't follow up from
that? So if it is not asking too much, if I give you a very simple, generally in science you call it a theory,
yeah.
I call it my experience. If I give you a simple line, can you build mathematics for it? Because that could be the telescope.
Right. Well, my question was going to be this. We started off talking about the cycles of the universe, and there was something which intrigued me. In one of your films, or one of the interviews, I've heard you talking about the fact that there were a certain number of cycles.
84.
84, exactly. And so I was intrigued about this, not 42, which is the answer to everything in Western, but 84, which of course is
42?
Which is twice, 84 is twice 42. So, but I'm fascinated, where does the figure 84 come from and why 84?
Well, you already heard that video, so I will leave that part.
No, but they didn't, and I like it. Yep.
See, there is a continuous talk about Big Bang.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the scientists who's written a book on endless universe. Yes, endless universe, that's the title of the book.
Paul Steinhardt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I met him in Davos and he was setting up a computer simulation of how it could have been. When I looked at that computer simulation, this is a form every day we work with. We call this linga. The word linga comes from the word lina. Lina means the form. We call it the form. The form.
Form.
What do you say? Form.
Sorry. A form. Oh, form. Thank you. It's my English accent.
Okay. The fool.
Now I understand.
Yeah. So we call it the.
Yep.
Why it's called the form is because it was the first form. So when he breathed out and when energy played upon his body and little particles of creation started forming cycles and making Mahakala, a great time, into a simple time process of atomic time, then he roared. When he roared, it rose like that. That form I am seeing on his computer. This is a form we always people worship and work with in so many ways. I see this guy had it on his computer. I said, how did you get this? He said he's been working on simulating the Big Bang. Then I asked him a simple question. Is it possible there could have been many bangs? He did like that and then he said, possible. Then I said, if there are many bangs, see if you have an automobile, if you take off the manifold, you will see the engine will go bang, 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 bang. If you throttle up, it'll roar. So I said, if there was a series of bangs, could it have been a roar? He said, why not? Possibly. I said, we've always been saying it's a roar, so we called the first form as the Rudra. Rudra means the one who roars. He roared. Like this, then we evolved many forms to describe this. This was Mahakala, this was Kala, this was Rudra, this is the first form, and then the many forms, how they came, there are various aspects to it. These things are not today. These things have been spoken millennia ago. How do they know all this? The simple thing is like this, if you look into this piece of creation, the whole creation is present in a footprint form. By looking at my footprint, suppose I walk through the garden, by looking at my footprint, you can measure my weight, my height, my gait, you can even guess how smart am I. Depending on how I navigate through spaces, you can see how smart you are. In this country, everybody is, eulogizing this all the time. The Native Americans could read the footprint and they could read the tracks, how many people, what is happening, this, that, lot of detail into it, because the footprint leaves a whole lot of things. So in many ways, various aspects of this creation, you will never be able to see this through physical approach or even mental approach, because mind we see it as a physical projection. Mind is a little subtler projection of the body. So these things cannot be seen, but the footprint can be seen. With the footprint you can know most of the things. Only thing you cannot know is, what is my nature, you cannot know. But you can figure out, if I walk through, let's say, a difficult terrain, you can easily figure out how smart I am. You can figure out what is my thinking. People do this. Looking at the animal footprints, I do this myself. Looking at the footprint, I know where it is going. Is it hungry? Is it not hungry? Is it hunting? Is it just walking around? I've survived in the jungles because I see these things very clearly. So looking at the footprint of creation, if you have lot of these numbers, which I don't have no numbers in my head, only number I have is this one. Or sometimes it becomes like this. I don't have any other numbers. Because of that, I don't bother about that, but if you have all these numbers, if I show you the footprint, can you build a mathematical ladder to that? If you build that, we can say scientists are seeing something that their eyes or their telescopes cannot see.
Yes, but can I ask a follow-up question? Because one of the reasons cosmologists like myself like to invoke cyclic universes is because of the apparently miraculous fine-tunings of the physical constants which are required for life to arise. This is what's called the anthropic principle, that there are unexplained coincidences between the constants of physics which are required for observers to arise in the universe. And one of the explanations of this is that you have many cycles of the universe, expansion and recollapse, and every time you have a bounce, you change the constants. And so the idea is that many of these cycles are just empty, no mind, no consciousness. But every now and then the constants have the right values for consciousness to arise. And so one reason you invoke cycles of the universe is that means occasionally you're going to be in a universe, well, you have to be in one of the cycles which is suitable for life. So this is one example of the multiverse. Does that tie in at all with the reason for having 84?
See, this 84, how we are talking about it is, there are yogis who have done a whole lot of mathematics to it. I'm not one of them. I'm good by knowing it by my experience. I don't wish to write it on the blackboard. I don't have the competence, let me say that. Competence comes only when you care for something, otherwise you don't acquire those competences. So these 84, out of these 84, many have dissolved. Their bare, vague footprint is there, but they have dissolved. But the footprint is there in this. 21 of them have a little larger footprint.
Oh.
Out of these 21, 10 are almost non-physical. Non-physical, let's say. The remaining 11 are somewhat mildly physical. But the last 4 are reasonably physical. So, we see this number 21 as an important process. Whatever we want to do, we do it in 21 minutes, in 21 ways and all this, because these 21 still have a footprint. If you want to rise beyond your physicality, absolutely, you have to rise beyond all the 21. But you don't have to bother about those things, because if you rise above the physical nature, not just in terms of physical body, but even the information is physical. All information that you carry, which makes you you, whether dead or alive, it still makes you you, that one, we want to rise beyond that. So that imprint carries all this, and out of the 84, 21 are still manifest in different levels of, for lack of words, I'm saying transience, from almost non-existent. Others below 21, they're completely gone, but their footprint is still there. They don't have any influence or impact, their qualities are not imprinted in us. But these 21 qualities are there in us. How many more will happen? 112 will happen.
112?
112. Each one of them may take whatever they've calculated these yojanas up to how long it'll take, that's not my number game, is not my game. So, 112 times it'll happen. After that, it will manifest in a way that it's non-physical and becomes a perpetual universe. A non-physical universe will manifest itself, that it doesn't need physical matter but exists, and even individual existence may happen, we don't know. It may happen, or one massive happening may happen, but a proper manifestation of universe without physicality. When that happens, that is the final one. This is seen as a thing, but I know science will not ever go with that. So let us leave those things. All I am saying is, this simple thing that I am talking about, if I give you the footprints as to how this is evolved, if you can create a mathematical backbone to it, I think it'll make sense to lots of people, and you will be seeing further, not with physical eyes, but mathematically you will be seeing much further than where you are seeing right now.
That's fascinating, because that is not one of the standard modern cosmological theories, you see. So, but what you're saying is that you've got these cycles which at some stage evolve beyond the straightforward physical.
See, the beautiful thing is, they're clearly defining this. Because the Indian cosmology is built and personified in a certain way. Most people, Indian origin people will know this. There is a coiled up snake upon which a god is lying down.
Yeah.
That snake is called Shesha. Shesha means, when we are learning mathematics in Indian languages, the remainder, what do you call it? Remainder. Remainder is called Shesha. What is remaining is Shesha. Even in our common language we use that. Shesha means something left over. So, this snake is the Shesha upon which once again creation begins. So this Shesha leftover, the leftovers are there from last 21 universes. But the imprint of the leftover is diminishing as you go backwards and increasing as you come forwards. But the last four are significant.
And so was consciousness in only some of these universes?
No, all of them were conscious, fully manifest universes.
All of them were
but they ran out of time. That what was Kala became Mahakala, but it left footprints. In some footprints they're very strong, we can see exact nature of what they are. Some footprints are very weak, that we can barely see that they are there.
And is this evolution towards, after 112 cycles, a non-physical state, does that correspond to a sort of evolution of consciousness?
In a way, it is like consciousness graduating, that without physical form it can manifest itself.
That's a very positive note on maybe which to, I know we've come to the end of our 2 hours, but that's a really interesting thought, but especially that you made it mathematical, like.
Thank you, sir. You came all the way. Thank you very much, sir. Fantastic. Life is just a combination of time and energy, isn't it? Limited amount of time, limited amount of energy. If you run into walls here and there, time and energy will go and your life will go. It's very important you run through the door, not through the wall. Yes, where there is openness, there you go. Good evening. Hey, I said good evening. Good evening. Okay. Please.
So today, can everyone hear me? Cool. So today we're going to talk about 2 different buckets. One is about the self, and the other is self's context within society. Between those two, there's a very common theme of figuring out what our purpose is within self and society. I think it's something that a lot of our generation faces. It's dubbed the millennial existential crisis, something that I've been through myself. When it comes to purpose, what has defined what your purpose is in this world, as it has led to you being here at Columbia Business School and the Youth and Truth program, but as well as if you have any work
लग जाए, तेरी मंजूरी रहने जगाए। मन मस्त मगन, मन मस्त मगन, बस तेरा नाम भुलाए। मन मस्त मगन, मन मस्त मगन, बस तेरा नाम भुलाए। चाहे भी तो भूल समाए। मन मस्त मगन, मन मस्त मगन, बस तेरा नाम भुलाए। मन मस्त मगन, मन मस्त मगन, तेरा नाम भुलाए। We're just giving you small snippets of songs, and this is a very, very, very popular. How many people have heard Dil Chahta Hai? I want everybody to jump and dance and sing and whistle with us. Let's go. Okay, we'll come there. थोड़ा सांस लेना, बहुत जम करना है इसका में। Ladies and gentlemen, because there is this beautiful song that Sadhguru check. This is an unbelievable moment for me. I can't believe this. Can I also request the amazingly talented, the amazingly gifted, our own dearest Sandeep Narayan to join us? This is a song which both of us had sung. Sadhguru ji, you want to?
a special moment which has been globally recognized today. The last few weeks, we have completed 108 million living trees as part of Kaveri Column. Don't clap your hands because I promised over 2 billion trees. We just reached 100 million. So please be with us to make this happen. And here is the song Kaveri Kugu, Kaveri Kukural.